Sometimes when I close my eyes, I still see his face stretched too tight over bone, lips cracked into something like a smile, and those eyes, those pale, glassy eyes that didn't blink. He told me his name was Curtis. He said he got trapped in 1963. He said he hadn't eaten since. But somehow, impossibly, he was still alive. I've been cave diving solo for most of my adult life. Some people find peace on the ocean, others in the mountains. For me, it's the dark, the chill, the silence. Something about the way the air changes underground makes me feel like I've stepped outside of time itself. I don't go into tourist traps. I explore the real systems, the forgotten places, the ones without names, the ones with half rumors scratched into gas station maps by old men who smile like they know something you don't. That's how I ended up in that part of New Mexico last spring. I had taken a week off work, packed my gear, and headed toward a collapsed cave system I'd read about on an old geology forum. According to the thread, the entrance had caved in sometime in the late 80s, but there were rumors that if you hiked high enough along the ridge, you could find a natural fissure that reconnected with the main system deeper in. I had no idea what I was really walking into. The hike itself was uneventful, mostly desert scrub and rocks that crunched dry under my boots. I found the fissure just before sundown, a jagged slit in the rock barely wide enough to squeeze through, maybe 20 feet above the original cave mouth. It didn't feel like it had been made by erosion. It felt split, torn, like something had forced its way out, but I ignored that feeling. Curiosity always wins when you're alone with your own thoughts. I tied off my rope, double-checked my pack, and began the descent into the dark. The passage dropped fast. I had to use my hands, bracing between the walls as the slope dipped steeply. The temperature plummeted with each step, and the smell of wet stone and decay curled up from below like a rising breath. I was expecting a small pocket or tight crawl space, maybe a collapsed chamber, but instead I emerged into something massive. It was a cavern, a wide, gaping maw of stone that extended in every direction beyond the reach of my headlamp. I could see broken support beams, old rusted hooks from ancient climbing gear, and a collapsed wooden ladder rotting near the far wall. It looked like a place that had been explored before, maybe even mapped, but long, long ago. I scanned the walls for carvings or painted marks, but there was nothing, just the endless gray of cold rock. I started setting markers and moving deeper, keeping track of my steps, breathing slow and controlled. That's when I saw him curled near a pile of loose stone, body hunched, clothes torn and dust covered, like he'd been buried alive. I stopped cold. At first I thought he was dead. He didn't move, didn't react to my light. I stepped closer and spoke, soft, calm, trying not to startle him. "Hey, are you okay? Can you hear me?" His head jerked like a puppet yanked by a string. Then slowly, so slowly, he turned to face me. His lips cracked open, and he whispered one word, "Finally." I radioed for emergency response, but I already knew the signal wouldn't reach this deep. I asked his name. He said it was Curtis Mallory. He said he'd been exploring the cave with two friends in 1963 when the tunnel collapsed behind them. One died on impact. The other tried digging their way out for days before falling asleep and never waking up. But Curtis? Curtis said he never got tired, never got hungry. He just waited. Said something told him to stay still, to be quiet, to not move, even when he heard other voices in the dark. Voices that didn't belong to his friends. I didn't believe him at first. Who would? But he didn't just look old, he looked wrong. His face wasn't wrinkled like someone in his 80s. It was tight, like the skin had stopped aging mid-process. His hands had long, yellowed fingernails, but not a trace of dirt beneath them. His eyes were so dry they looked frozen. And worst of all, he didn't blink. Not once. I helped him stand, and he moved like he hadn't used his muscles in decades, stiff and stuttering. Like each movement had to be remembered piece by piece. I offered him water, and he declined. Said it made him sick now. Said, They wouldn't like it if he drank again. I should have left then, should have marked the path and come back with professionals. I couldn't just leave someone like that. Not if there was a chance he really was who he said he was. So I led him through the cavern, retracing my steps to the fissure. But when we got there, it was gone. The split in the rock, the rope I'd tied, everything was gone. Just smooth stone where I'd come through. Curtis didn't seem surprised, in fact. He smiled. It's always like that, he said. They don't like visitors leaving with souvenirs. I asked him what he meant, and he just shook his head. Don't ask questions down here. That's how they find you. I tried not to panic. We searched for hours. Every direction I moved felt wrong, like the tunnels had shifted behind me. Landmarks disappeared. My markers vanished. The battery on my headlamp started to blink red. Curtis didn't need light. He moved comfortably in the dark, never tripping, never reaching for the walls. He started humming something low and off-key, a rhythm that didn't match any song I knew. I asked him to stop, but he didn't even seem to hear me anymore. Then I made a mistake. I asked him why he was still alive. He turned, eyes wide, lips curling. Because I made a promise, he said, and promises live longer than bodies. That was the first time I felt real fear. Not the kind that makes you shake, the kind that freezes your blood in your veins. I stepped back, told him to stay where he was, and turned into the nearest passage. I ran, blind, desperate. I don't remember how long I ran, or how many times I tripped, or when the humming stopped, but at some point I found light, natural light. A thin crack in the ceiling high above, too narrow to climb, but enough to mark a way out. I followed the breeze until I found another exit half covered by a landslide, but real. When I finally crawled into daylight, I collapsed. I was found 2 days later by a pair of hikers. I was dehydrated, bruised, and missing half my gear. I told the authorities about Curtis, about the cave, about what I saw. They sent a search team, found nothing, no cavern, no split in the rocks, no signs of a man trapped since 1963. I went back with them, but everything had changed. The ridge was solid, no crack, no breeze, just desert and sun. I tried to look him up. Curtis Mallory disappeared 1963. And yes, there was a report, a real one. 3 college students lost in a cave outside Silver City. 2 bodies recovered. 1 never found. I never spelunked again. I don't even go near the mountains anymore. But sometimes when I'm driving through the desert alone and the wind dies down, I hear humming, low and off-key, and I swear to God it's coming from underneath the ground. The map didn't lie. It had never lied. Every slope, every chamber, every drop was exactly where we'd left it until the day it wasn't. Until we realized we were walking familiar paths that no longer existed. We de-explored the Devil Shelf Caverns in southern Utah 6 times over the past 3 years. It was our usual group: me, Eli, Rachel, and Tuck. All experienced, all cautious. The system was technically closed to the public due to some previous collapses, but we knew the entry point through an old cattle trail that crossed into the ridge. It wasn't the deepest or the most impressive cave network we'd seen, but it was reliable, predictable. We had every inch mapped out ourselves, hand-drawn over topographic printouts, marked with fluorescent tabs and waterproof notes. When you spend enough time underground, knowing where you are is what keeps the fear at bay. This trip started like all the others. We parked at the overlook, checked gear, sensed our radios, and entered through the west shaft. Everything matched the map. The initial descent took us into a wide antechamber that sloped into 2 crawl tunnels. One dead-ended. The other opened into a series of winding switchbacks. We'd taken the route enough times to know it by muscle memory. Eli always led. I followed with the main pack. Rachel brought up rear. And Tuck carried our emergency med kit. It was smooth. Too smooth looking back. There was no hint that anything had changed. It wasn't until we reached the chamber we called the Hollow that things started to go wrong. The Hollow was one of the largest open spaces in the entire system, almost cathedral-like in shape. It had a natural archway of stone that looked carved by hand, and Rachel had once said it reminded her of a mouth yawning open. It always gave me chills. But this time the chamber didn't yawn, it swallowed. The air felt different, not stale like usual, but charged, like static. And the archway? Gone. In its place was a jagged slope of stone and a thin tunnel that hadn't been there before. Tuck thought it was a new collapse we'd somehow missed. But that wasn't possible. We had footage, notes, measurements. There was no sign of recent activity. No dust, no fresh stone. Just a tunnel that didn't belong. Still, we were too curious to turn back. Eli suggested we follow it just far enough to compare notes and update the map. We always documented changes, even minor ones. So we marked our position, set our flags, and crawled inside. The passage was narrow, winding, and oddly symmetrical, almost unnaturally so. I couldn't shake the feeling that we were walking down something made, not eroded. The further we went, the colder it got. And not just from the lack of sunlight, it felt deeper than it should have been. Not in elevation existentially, like we weren't just under rock anymore, like we were under something else. After 30 minutes, we entered another chamber. This one we didn't recognize at all. Massive, black, and empty, with stalactites shaped like teeth and a floor that echoed weirdly, like it was hollow beneath. Eli pulled out the map, rotated it, squinted, turned on his second flashlight, and frowned. "This isn't on here," he said. "At all. We should be over the West Fork by now." Rachel stepped in and checked her compass. The needle spun, not slowly, wildly, like it was caught in a storm we couldn't feel. "That's not right," she whispered. "This isn't magnetic interference. It's like something's pulling it from all sides." Then we heard the sound, a soft scuffling behind us, from the tunnel we'd just emerged through, but none of us had moved. We all heard it. Boots on loose stone. Breathing. We spun our lights around and shouted nothing. The tunnel was empty, but the noise continued. A dragging step, slow, hesitant, as if testing the floor ahead of it. Tuck called out, thinking maybe a ranger or another group had somehow entered from a side route, but no voice answered. Just that faint, deliberate scrape of motion, like skin on stone. We backed away. Eli wanted to retrace our path, but the tunnel we'd come through was wrong, narrower, shorter. The flag we'd planted was missing. The walls had shifted, literally shifted. Where there had been rounded sandstone, now there were sharp ridges, almost like claw marks, and the air smelled like rust and wet fabric. I don't know how else to describe it. It was like something damp and rotting had passed through just before us. That's when we realized the map didn't match anything anymore. Not just this chamber, not just this fork. Everything. Every junction, every climb. None of it aligned. It was like the cave had been gutted and rearranged overnight. Eli tried to act calm, scanning the walls for familiar formations, but I could see the panic in his face. Rachel's hands shook so badly she dropped her pen. Tuck said the word none of us wanted to say out loud. We were not alone down here. We began moving fast, back through whatever tunnel would take us up, out, anywhere. The lights started to flicker. Not just batteries dying, actual interference. Static in the headlamps. Heat spots blooming and then vanishing. Rachel screamed when hers shorted out entirely, plunging her into blackness until we regrouped. That's when we saw it. A figure standing just beyond our light's reach, motionless, slightly hunched, not responding, not speaking. It looked human, at first, until it started moving not toward us but alongside, paralleling our path through the tunnels. Always just far enough that we couldn't make out details, just the feeling of being tracked, hunted. Tuck said it might be a miner's spirit, some ancient echo of the people who died down here long before it was a park. Rachel, pale as chalk, whispered that it wasn't a ghost. Ghosts didn't change maps. Ghosts didn't move tunnels. Ghosts didn't follow you and wait for you to run out of light. We finally reached a familiar shaft or something close to it. The ladder was rusted differently, the wall was deeper, but it was a way up. We climbed, fast, one by one, scraping knuckles and tearing gloves. When I reached the surface, the sun had nearly set. The air hit me like a rebirth. I wanted to cry, but when I turned to help the others up, only Rachel followed. Then Tuck, no Eli. We screamed for him. Lit the entrance. Tried the radios. Nothing. Just static. Tuck dropped back into the shaft. 15 minutes passed. Then 20. Rachel and I waited, flashlights aimed down into the dark. But no one came up. Not Tuck. Not Eli. Eventually, search and rescue teams got involved. We showed them our maps. They laughed, said the system had been officially sealed since 1992 due to instability. No known open passages, no fissures, no cathedral chamber, no archway. We led them to the entrance. But the cave had collapsed again, like it never wanted to be found. Eli and Tuck were never recovered. Sometimes I look at the map, our old one, the real one, the one we made ourselves, the one we trusted. I trace the lines with my fingers and wonder what they became. I wonder what watches from just beyond the last light. I wonder what waits when stone decides to move. Because now I know caves don't stay still. Not when they're alive. I never heard a scream echo like that, muffled, wet, and somehow backwards. It didn't sound like my friend was yelling for help. It sounded like something was peeling the scream out of him, like a skin being pulled off. It was supposed to be just another weekend of amateur spelunking. My friend Mason and I had been exploring caves in the Kentucky backcountry for about 3 years. Nothing extreme, just hobbyist stuff. We'd mark down formations, track bats, take a few photos. The places we explored weren't on tourist maps, but they weren't technically illegal either. Usually just old coal shafts or naturally formed caverns. Locals pointed us to with a "be careful" and a smirk. We always were. Mason was methodical, obsessed with gear checks and safety ropes. I was the one who brought the snacks and kept things lighthearted. That weekend, the plan was simple. Revisit a cave we'd heard about from a gas station clerk in a forgotten corner of Clay County. No name, no markings. Just go about a mile past the split in the road. Look for the limestone dip. You'll smell the earth. And we did. We parked, hiked maybe 15 minutes, and there it was, just like he said. A slope in the terrain, choked with moss, revealing a narrow entrance in the rock, like the earth had yawned and then forgotten to close its mouth. We suited up, headlamps, gloves, packs. Mason always went first. The first chamber was a wide, sloping cavern, littered with rocks slick with moisture. It stank of damp rot and something faintly metallic. The deeper we went, the quieter the world became. At some point, even the bugs disappeared. No clicking beetles, no flutter of wings. Not even our own voices felt right. They bounced wrong, like the walls were absorbing everything and spitting back just the breath. About an hour in, we hit a narrow stretch barely shoulder width, maybe 3 feet high. A crawl space, tight and full of uneven stone. But Mason, as always, was eager. He unclipped his pack, dropped to his stomach, and started shimmying forward, light flickering off his helmet as he moved ahead. I followed, maybe 4 feet behind him. The air shifted immediately. It wasn't just the pressure or the dust. It felt like the crawl space wasn't empty, like we'd disturbed something that had been still for too long. Mason cracked a joke about how the cave was probably older than Jesus, and kept crawling. I laughed, but it didn't reach my chest. It stayed in my throat, stiff and sour. The tunnel narrowed. Mason grunted, then stopped. "Hold on," he called back. "There's a bend. I think it opens up." I waited while he inched forward again. Then I heard him pause. Not move. Just stop. His boots twitched against the floor, then went still. I called out, but he didn't answer. I heard him breathe, once shaky and short, then a sound I will never forget. Not in the deepest part of sleep, not with a pillow pressed tight over my ears. A whisper, low and harsh, like dry leaves dragging across stone. But it wasn't just one voice. It was layers, like someone had played 50 recordings of people muttering and warped them together into a sick, foreign chant. And they were coming from in front of Mason, not ahead, not from the chamber. Right in front of his face, he jerked suddenly. His boots kicked. He screamed my name, but it was like the sound bent around the rock, like something was muffling it from inside his throat. Then he screamed again, louder, more primal. It was the scream of someone who knew they were dying. It was gurgled, wet. Then I felt the shift. The air pulled toward him, like the whole cave took a breath inward. Dust swirled. My headlamp flickered once, then steadied. I panicked. I started to crawl forward, yelling, dragging my chest across jagged stone. I reached the bend and turned it and found nothing. No Mason, just empty rock. The tunnel curved and ended in a dead wall. No chamber, no drop, no sign of disturbance. Not even a scuff mark. His boots were gone. His helmet, his pack, even his breath. I froze. I must have stayed there for 5 minutes, just breathing. Then I heard it again, once right behind me, the whispering. Except this time, it was in my voice. I backed out of that crawl space so fast I bruised my elbows and ripped my shirt. When I finally scrambled into the main cavern, I didn't stop. I dropped my gear, left everything, and ran through the dark until I saw daylight. I drove barefoot, bleeding, shaking. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning I went back with help. A local search and rescue team. Professionals. We marked the location, went back into the cave, traced our steps. They reached the crawl space, said it was a dead end. No evidence anyone had ever been beyond it. No belongings, no prints, no signs of collapse. Nothing. They chalked it up to panic. Sighed maybe Mason had taken a different path, that maybe he slipped into a crevice I hadn't noticed. They filed a missing persons report. That was it. But here's the thing that no one talks about. 2 of the volunteers from the search and rescue team never returned to the station. They split off during the second sweep. Their radios cut out, and by the time the team circled back to find them, they were gone. No blood, no gear, no trail. Just 2 more missing names in the woods of Kentucky. I've never gone back, but sometimes I still hear it. Not when I'm awake. Never then. But in dreams, when it is too quiet and I am lying still enough to feel the weight of the air around me, I hear the whisper again. Only now, it's clearer. Less like noise, more like words. And every time it gets closer to my ear. Mason didn't get lost. He didn't fall. He didn't die. He was taken. Pulled into something that waits where sunlight has never touched. And whatever it is, it remembers me.